phlebotomist here at Bronson while I work my way through nursing school. So the story that I was asked to share happened about 3-4 weeks ago, but before I can share that story, I have to share something a little personal and kind of private about me. I carry a stone in my pocket, and the stone started about 7 years ago when I first got into healthcare. I was an x-ray technologist down in Texas, Houston specifically, and the hospital I worked at was in the medical center. And I'm not sure if anyone in the room is familiar with the Texas Medical Center, but it is a massive medical center, like a huge downtown, one big hospital next to another, it's massive. So the hospital I worked at wanted to kind of separate itself and become elite in a way. And to do that, they wanted to change the culture of the entire hospital. And because of that, they sent all of their employees down from EVS all the way up to the physicians. Everybody had to go to a training. And so within the first couple months of my employment, I went to this training, and one of the presenters at the training gave an example, and he passed out a tray of stones. And they were all different colors, and they had all different kinds of words on them. And he told everyone in the room to pick out a stone. It was theirs to keep. And once everyone had a stone, he asked 2 or 3 people, why did you pick the stone that you picked? And they shared their stories. At the time, I picked a stone. It was kind of metallic chrome in color. It reminded me of a mirror, and it had the word courage on it. And again, at the time, I was a people pleaser, and I wanted very much to have the courage to be myself, so it was my own personal reminder. So after everyone had their stone, the presenter said, now I want you to imagine if I had stood at the entrance of the room after the whole thing was over, and as you filed out, I randomly picked a stone and passed it out to each one of you. Most of you would have thought, hey, cool, I got a stone. He says, but how much more does the stone that you have right now mean to you, simply because you had the choice? So it was a cool message, and I kept that stone in my pocket because it was at work that I needed this reminder the most. And it kind of became that thing that I just randomly played with in my pocket, absent-mindedly. So a couple months later, I was working in the outpatient x-ray facility, and I was one of the closers. About 5 minutes to closing one evening, the lab called and said, we have a patient with a chest x-ray ordered, and we're finishing up her labs now, could you please stay open, so she can get her chest x-ray. And I have a little personal rule, my last patient gets the best of me. I smile a little more, I slow down, I take my time. Because if there's ever a patient that you're going to inadvertently offend or mess up on, it's that one that you're trying to rush through to get home. So, of course we stayed open. The patient came over, extremely apologetic, as you can well imagine. I sent her to the dressing room, told her take her time, not to worry about it, we're happy to be here. I'd be here when she was ready. So as we're walking back to the exam room, I was making small talk, just, how was your day? And she said, well, it's been kind of up and down. And I said, oh yeah, how come? And she says, well, my whole family drove in from 4 hours away, and we were here today to do my 5-year cancer-free checkup. And I'm sure you all know the 5 years is the big one. That's, if you've been cancer-free for 5 years, you beat cancer. And she says, but the preliminary tests are showing that it's back full-blown stage 4. And yeah, what do you say? What do you say to that? So she says, so I have all this extra testing, and I wasn't prepared for it. And I said, well, don't worry about it. We'll get your chest x-ray done, and you can go back to your family. So I completed the exam, came back in the room in an effort not to rush her anymore. I just kind of stood there, and I said, so do you guys plan to drive back tonight? And she said, no, we actually got a hotel here because we had planned to celebrate in the city. But I really appreciate you staying open because I didn't want to come back up to the hospital the next day just for a chest x-ray. And I was like, oh gosh, of course, I was happy to. And I put my hands in my pocket. And without even thinking about it, I took it out and I said, do you mind if I pass this on to you? And she saw the word courage and she started to cry. And she said, you know what? Sometimes God just puts the right person in the right place at the right time. And this was very profound for me, obviously still 7 years later. So the hospital I worked at gave jars of stones to all the different departments, and my department would just set it on the counter for anyone to grab as they would. So after that, I would go to the jar and I would grab a stone, keep my eyes closed, grab one out, and I would just keep it for the next person that might need one. So in the 7 years, I've given 5 stones away. It has always been the most perfect word. I had a gentleman who got a stone that said faith, and after I gave it to him, he told me he was a preacher and he'd been diagnosed with prostate cancer about a month before, and that he was having a crisis of faith, and he thanked me for the gift. Another girl who, 22, came in for a routine checkup because work told her she needed to, and they found breast cancer. She was so angry and mad at the world, and her stone was patience. And I had another lady who was going through withdrawal. She had had chronic pain most of her life, on and off all different kinds of narcotics. And they were currently weaning her off one to try another. And she was just so weak, she couldn't even lift her arms above her head. And her stone was strength. So, the story that I was actually supposed to share. This happened about 3-4 weeks ago, and it was here at Bronson. It was in our outpatient lab area. For those of you who haven't been there, we have a draw room, one big room. There's about 6 stations, a small waiting area. It can get kind of crowded, a little loud. And then off the back, we have another room that has our computers, our workstations, phones, whatnot. And at the time, I was in the back working on Gemba on the computer. And one of our trainees comes into the back room, and he says, he goes up to his trainer, and he says, you know, we have a mom out here, and she wants to draw her daughter's blood. You know, she doesn't want any other phlebotomist to try. I tried, I didn't get enough, and you know, she refuses to let any other phlebotomist poke her daughter again. And I will admit to you, I rolled my eyes because, wow, okay. But the trainer goes out and he spoke to the family, and then he comes, a few minutes later, he comes back in the room and he picks up the phone and he calls my manager, Angela. And he tells Angela, we have this mom out here, she wants to draw her daughter's blood, says that she's been allowed to do this other places, and she says that if, you know, she can't draw the blood, she wants her orders back and she's gonna go somewhere else and where they'll let her do it, or she'll just draw it in the parking lot and bring it back. And the problem is that the daughter was having surgery here at Bronson, and so the pre-op labs needed to be done here. So Angela comes out and speaks to the family for a little while, and then Angela comes into the back room, and she picks up the phone and she calls her manager, Lois. And she says, Lois, I have this family here, and the mom is a phlebotomist somewhere else. She's often drawn her daughter's blood. Her daughter is more comfortable with her mother drawing it. I believe that other people let them do this. I want to make this happen. How do I do that? And I have to tell you, I was extremely proud of my manager because we have policies and procedures for a reason. They're there to keep us safe. And in a society where we're constantly being sued or bad press, you know, it would have been so easy for my manager to say, very nicely, I'm so sorry, but we don't do that. But instead, she took the time to talk to this family and realized that for this individual, that in this situation, the best plan of care was to let the mother do the draw. So, Lois says, call risk management. So Angela gets on the phone and, you know, she's cutting through the red tape. And in the meantime, this family has been sitting out in the draw room, and they're still sitting in that chair in the corner, and it was a busy time of day, so patients are coming and going, and other phlebotomists are walking by, and of course nobody's making eye contact because it's a little awkward, and I thought maybe they would like to know that we were trying, you know, for them. So I got up and I went out and I approached the family and I said, hey, I just want to let you know, my manager's back there, she's on the phone, she's trying to make this happen for you. And the relief on their face was just so apparent. And then the dad starts talking to me and he says, you know, my daughter's here for her 19th brain surgery. She's already had half her brain removed, and she's, you know, obviously been dealing with this since she was little. Both my wife and I draw blood in our profession, and he says, my wife, she's particularly gifted. She can find things that even after she finds it, I still can't see. And he says, you know, and our daughter is just so much more comfortable, and it's so hard to watch your daughter go through so much pain when you know that you could do it. So, about that time, Angela comes out of the back room, and she says, okay, we're gonna let you do the draw. They've asked that I stay present, you know, and supervise the draw. They asked that I clean the site, but you can do the draw. So, Mom does this draw flawlessly, like amazing. Got plenty of blood just popping on the tubes. It was amazing. And afterwards, because the daughter was developmentally delayed, I asked if she wanted a prize, and she did. So we go over to our treasure box, and as she's rooting through trying to pick what she wanted, put my hands in my pocket, and I felt my stone, and I thought, you know, I think this family could use it. So I didn't want to do it in the drawer room because it's loud and noisy, and this is kind of a private thing I do. So I decided to walk them out, and we walked to the gift shop. That's where they were headed. Got to the door, and I said, I hope this isn't awkward for you, but do you mind if I pass this on to you? And the stone said peace. And as soon as the mother read it, she covers her mouth and she starts bawling, and the father just says, oh my God, wow, that's amazing. And all three gave hugs, and I said, you know, I just hope everything goes smoothly for you guys, and I wish you the best. And I went back to my apartment. Well, within a few minutes, the father came and asked for me, and he says, do you mind if I share something with you? And I was like, no, please. And he said, my wife recently lost her brother, and her brother was very, very into the concept of peace, and he had peace symbols and the word peace on nearly everything he owned. And since we've lost him, the word peace has come into our lives in some amazing ways. And every time it's happened, we feel like he's still with us. And he says, I don't know what your religious beliefs are, but we just feel like that by you giving us this stone, it was God's way of letting us know that everything's going to be okay. So I carry a stone in my pocket, and lobotomy Bronson. It's pretty awesome.